It being 7 o'clock, I'm going to call this meeting of the Arundel Planning Board to order. The date is July 11th, and we are meeting in I don't know what they call this room, quite honestly. Yeah, but, they should come up with a classier name.
It's not the Grand Room.
No, I said classier. Okay, we have on the agenda today, the approval of the agenda, approval of the minutes for June 6th, public comment, new business Glencoe Heights subdivision, and a pending application from Fitzpatrick Development. We will have the town planners report. We will have some other business. We will have an election, and then we will all go home. And I will start at the far end with a roll call.
Lee J. Feldman, Southern Maine Planning and Development Commission, contract planner for the town.
Susan Senate.
Paul Green.
Tom McGann.
Susan Roth.
Rich Ganong, I am the chair. Okay. Approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion. We approve the minutes of June 6th with the correction to Mr. Lowry's name for May 23rd.
Gotta get the agenda.
Oh, sorry.
Just the agenda that we're going.
I move that we approve the agenda.
And I'll second that.
Okay, motion was made by Paul Green and seconded by Tom again to approve the
I'm
agenda.
sorry, what? To the chair, I approve, I made a motion to approve the agenda.
We never heard you at this end. Sorry.
That's okay.
So in that case, Susan made the motion and Tom seconded it.
Okay.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It is unanimous. On to the minutes of June 6th.
I'll make a motion. We approve the minutes of June 6th with the correction to Mr. Lowry's name.
Motion by Paul Green and seconded by Susan Roth to approve the minutes of June 6th, 2023. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. The next section is for public comment. This is for anyone in the audience that has comments that they would like to make to the planning board, suggestions about things you'd like us to address going forward in the future. As long as it's not something that's already on the agenda. And since nobody is jumping up and saying, I have comments, I will move right along to the next section. New business. Before we start on new business, I need to let everybody know that if you are not in the meeting, you do not get to speak out. And that means that you cannot have somebody on your cell phone speak for you. They must be present. Okay, Glencoe Heights subdivision sketch plan. The applicant is proposing an 11-lot subdivision on Jasper Lane, tax map 1, lot 18. The parcel is 51.49 acres in the R3 and R4 zones. The plan includes 10 duplex lots and 1 single-family home. The project will have 900 plus or minus square feet of reconstructed roadway and an additional 2,000 square feet of new road. Colleen Campbell is the property owner and Dempsey LLC is the applicant, represented by Thomas Skillis. Who wants to make the presentation?
We have a dual presenters. I guess. Oh, that's not going to sit to talk. Okay. Hi, I'm Tom Gillis. We have an interest in this property that is currently the access to it is a dirt road that somehow has a spec on a former plan of a gravel-based road. We're proposing to bring that up to town standards. And then from the end of it, continue with a road with town standards as well. I did put a cross-section on the lower side, pretty much following what your, what do you call it here? Collector road?
Would be a
Collector road?
minor road.
Minor road. So that's our intent, 20 feet of pavement width. With a cul-de-sac down at the end, I made the cul-de-sac a little bit larger, 80 feet in diameter in radius to just make it more accessible. And it's pretty straightforward. We're going with the lot sizes that are allowed in that particular zone. As you can see, a zone line cuts right through the middle of it. So with
R3 to the front, R4 to the rear.
to the rear. So we've sized the lots in accordance with the ordinance
Okay.
for duplex lot. Duplex lot. Better thought here.
Which one of these is going to be the single family home?
The one, nope. Right off the cul-de-sac. Nope, over there, yeah, that was, that's the single family lot.
Presently, there are no lot numbers shown, so we'll have some struggle until we assign a lot number. Again, this was a conceptual. By the way, I'm Jim Logan with Longview Partners. Spent a long time working for Frick Associates for many years, 27 or 8 years with Albert Frick Associates of Gorham. Now have an office with Longview Partners right in Kennebunk. Down on Route 1 South, working with Tom. I started on this project with my partner, doing wetland evaluation and an analysis for the sale of the lot for Colleen Campbell originally. Colleen, once she got it to where she could market it, then had Tom approach her and form a purchase and sale agreement, and then we were marching forward. Tom has commissioned the delineation of the wetlands. So we're underway. We haven't completed the delineation yet. This is 56 acres. 52 acres, I believe. So we're about 2/3 of the way through. The lines you're looking at on your map are approximated from our earlier reconnaissance survey. We spent a bunch of time for Ms. Campbell back in March and April. And I am here to verify for the board at this time, we have found no vernal pool habitat within the forested wetland area that's on this lot. This lot does contain predominantly forested wetlands. We have a few stream channels we have identified that will meet the standard of the Maine Department of Environmental Protection that have the 5-part litmus test, the criteria all in the one location. We'll have those on the future map.
Okay.
They will be added in. Area calculations will be provided at that time that will document the amount of upland versus wetland in gross area on the lot. The original Jasper Lane, which leads to this property, that's the hammerhead in the front that Tom has that shows no hatch marks, was previously approved. I think Lee J may be able to comment on that. I think that was one of the town of Arundel staff reviews.
Yes.
Yes, and
Yes.
that's what Tom here is referring to. There was a staff review that approved that as the gravel road that presently exists. I believe it needs a modest upgrade to support what Tom is proposing. So no vernal pools. We don't think the wetlands there constitute a WAS by the DEP definition. That is the acronym, Wetland of Special Significance. That would be if we had an emergent area or an area that was wet enough marsh, didn't have trees on it, in excess of 20,000 square feet in one place. That would trigger an automatic 75-foot setback to any connected wetland. As you folks know, Town of Arundel ordinance has further protections on the wetlands, and we're still in the process of determining how that will affect house placement and final layout, because we'll be looking at the neckings of these forested wetlands. And of course, your ordinance includes definitions that allow us to disconnect where portions of the wetlands neck down less than 100 feet of width. For that first 100 feet, that's less than 100 feet of width. And we will, I've done this gyration a lot of times with your ordinance. We will attempt to show that visually on a map so that it's clear to you when we come back.
Okay.
Where those exist and don't, because they will help to further determine additional setbacks that may apply due to the ordinance in Arundel. Okay. Perhaps at the beginning, when you ask for public comment, as a wetland delineator, I will tell you, and I've explained this to Jim Nagel, and I've explained it to Lee J, it is a challenge for us. I had this where we made a presentation a while back to you for Bill Stilfen, you might remember.
Yeah.
Kind of controversial. In that case, I needed to get permission to go on a neighbor's lot. And that's my issue potentially with the section of your ordinance that wants to regulate based on an acreage that includes adjoining properties where we don't have right of access, because then it becomes very difficult to be accurate. So I present that to the board just as a, something to
And-
consider.
And I could see where that would be problematic, but if you're talking about a 10-acre wetland that's got 4 acres on yours and 6 acres on somebody else, it's still a 10-acre wetland.
I'm not disputing the acreage.
Oh, yeah.
know what's on the other part.
Oh, yeah,
It's right of access. I just don't have right of access to do
Yeah.
the work accurately. So I urge the board, and maybe Lee J could provide some additional guidance as to what mechanism otherwise may be used. The ordinance doesn't really describe a method,
you're right, it doesn't, and
and we
that's,
can use NWI, National Wetlands Inventory Maps. They're not very accurate. We can guess on the topo. We have the 2-foot LiDAR data now, which is helpful, but still not always the full answer. So I mentioned that to you just in passing, because it's very challenging to make sure we're doing the work with full diligence, if you will.
and I would agree. It is challenging because you can't see if the neighbor doesn't want to let you on the property, you
Boom.
can't tell what's over there.
You nailed it. I can look, but I can only see 30 or 50 feet into the lot. And so if it's 300 feet I need to map in, we're going to be in trouble.
Yep.
And I've had negotiations with not just this town, because this does exist in other towns as well. Kennebunk regulates on acreage as well. We kind of come to a methodology that we can all agree to that is our best
Mhm.
attempt. So, but we'll reserve further judgment on that, because I don't yet have the full inventory on
Okay.
the lot.
We should have it by the next meeting.
Yes.
That is certainly something that, as this project moves forward, that we'll be able to sit and talk with Jim about internally and make sure that we have a straight face test way that we can take a look at that for the board.
Yeah, we did take the time and had the opportunity to meet with Lee J and Jim about this property prior to coming here. And we would assume we would do it again as the process would dictate, so that there's a comfort level.
Yeah, so basically, we're just looking for direction. I mean, this is our vision, and we're just wondering if we're on the right track. I would rather do fee simple lots here than something other, just because it, I've never said this before, but these wetlands play out almost perfect for this development.
I need a couple more of
It was
those.
just-
sites.
It was just amazing that when we fit this in there, and you can see where those proposed dwellings, which are the black and the test pits that were done. It just seems neat.
It's- I assume that we would hope to get a site walk with the board. That would be
Yes.
typical.
Yeah.
Yes. And it would be during that time that it would be evident to the board. I know if you're familiar with the Proctor Road area, looks pretty flat and pretty wet.
Oh, yeah.
The whole length of it. When you get to this Jasper Lane, and you get across the first wetland, and you can start to see the rolling topography that is evident here. It's funny, the whole Biddeford end of Proctor Road is all pretty flat and wet clay.
Yeah.
You get up onto this landform and you're into better quality sands and gravels over clay and glacial till in places. So we have some real knolls to work with, what are really nice house sites
Yeah,
ultimately. I think that'll be evident to the
Then-
board on a site walk.
we've actually minimized, the only impact we really have is the crossing. Right at the beginning after the hammerhead. We have a crossing to get to the back 2 lots.
And by the way, there is currently a house under construction right here
Yeah,
on this lot, prior to getting into the remaining land.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Hang on just for Lee J.
I just wanted to point out for the board, as you know, but put it out there on the record that where this is a sketch, you're not accepting any application at this point for completeness. You're not approving anything at this point. You're just gonna give the applicant direction this evening. And you do want to set a date for a site walk, which is required as part of the sketch review. And at that time, when you're out there for the site walk, you can make a determination on what level of contouring you want for the plan application, whether it be 2-foot contours, 5-foot contours, 10-foot contours, depending on how you feel about the topography out there at that time.
I can offer at this time that we will likely, if the board finds it acceptable, provide 2-foot contours that are LiDAR data, that is the air photo and topographic information available from the main office of GIS. And we have found, and in my experience, working very closely with multiple surveyors, Dow and Coulomb, Livingston Hughes, Lee and Blood's office, Lower Village, that those topo lines are within, generally speaking, within 6 inches of survey elevation, survey grade elevation. So for the purposes of a subdivision review, we have found them to be very accurate. And what I've done typically with my clients is if there's a requirement that's very specific in the ordinance, we ask a waiver for the higher quality topographic, the ground shot topographic information that used to be $8,000 or $10,000 from a land surveyor. We use the LiDAR data and then only provide for the board's more careful review, ground shot topo through the road section. So that where grading is necessary, where road construction, where the details of stormwater and so forth have to be accommodated, we would want more accurate topo information certified by a surveyor for that.
Thank you.
And then
Susan?
if it would be the board's interest at that time, that we would ask a waiver for the other thing.
You had a
Question?
Couple of questions. One, how come duplexes as opposed to single family homes, A? And B, will the duplexes be condos or rentals or individually constructed, or, what's the plan with that?
Duplexes was just arrived at because we can provide the lot sizes that support duplexes. I was going through and I said, wow, we can do some nice duplex lots. My vision is to probably condo them. That would be probably the best economical use. I don't know about rentals, there'll be fee simple lots. So I guess whoever buys the lot, if we decide to build some of them, it's kind of up to them, because you've got a fee simple thing. If it meets the requirements of the septic system for a duplex and the test kits you've done indicate.
Yeah, we could
maybe
support duplexes.
So
would support
if someone buys a lot, they can either build a duplex or a single
They could
family
build a
home.
single family if they want.
I know, again, with my experience, and I've done a lot of subdivision work, Kennebunk, Arundel, Kennebunkport. The call is always for something for workforce housing. And affordability is a factor. And I have to say that duplex construction, if you talk to builders, they would explain to you that it just makes the.
I wasn't disputing that. I was just curious
just-
as to.
Well,
whether-
that's
My thought in the
thinking of it.
duplexes, they can use the rent one. If someone wants to build a duplex, they can use the rented one and qualify for that.
I was merely commenting on the cost effectiveness of duplexes towards a more affordable housing unit, that's all.
Right.
To the chair, I have a question.
Yes, Susan.
The test pit symbols that you have on here at this point, towards the end, again, I can't really see yours, and this is a smaller version of that. In the back, which one again is going to be the single family home? And again, I can't see that. Your angle is not showing you. No, I understand, but I can't see what you're pointing to.
It's all because my keyboard broke.
So that's the single. So why is there no test pit for the last two at the end?
Honestly, it's for one thing, this is sketch only.
Yes, I understand that. Thank you.
And the bullets that we have out here are just representations from our first reconnaissance survey.
Okay,
We know we have suitability so far for where we showed the bullets. We have not yet completed soil suitability for these other lots.
Okay.
But I believe.
This is what's been happened so far is what you're saying, moving
The
forward.
work in progress.
And then the one that you're showing on the, actually on that side is single, and those are all the other
This
two are the
one is
duplex.
These are duplexes, everything else.
Everything else is
And we will
duplex.
infill with test bits prior to coming back to you with a preliminary plan phase, the preliminary plan phase of the review.
Right, thank you.
And if we did go with singles, we'd probably end up with another 4 or 5 lots. It just, again, it's economics and cost effectiveness. Instead of 11 lots, we'd probably be at 14, 15. Because the duplex is 4.5 acres, where a single family is 3 acres. It just, again, the duplex is, my first home was a duplex. It was nice to get rent from the other side, that's all.
Anybody on the board have any other questions?
Question, the one thing that jumps out at me is it's not clustered, so we do have a mandatory requirement to do clustered, for anything 5 or more lots needs to be clustered. And with that, you actually, it could be to your benefit where you could build towards Proctor Road end and not have to deal with all the wetlands out back. They can be close together.
I've started that discussion.
Yeah.
Okay. And we could, one of the objectives of that is to preserve some open space, so it's a trade-off. You can have higher density, but you put aside an amount that would be open space.
Okay, I'll study it again.
Okay.
My father was a Yankee engineer and he always told me, be simple, but we'll work with whatever you want. That's why we're here.
Yep,
The
good.
cluster would be fee simple, it could
Yeah,
be fee
could-
simple,
could be
but
fee
it
simple.
could be,
Yes.
could be smaller lots than what you've got proposed. And
With common
or
ownership of the open
just a-
space.
Sure.
The second concept.
I've
probably
done
could be better.
clusters before.
Yep.
I don't have a problem with it, but I must have missed that section of the ordinance, or just didn't read it. So is that, when you say it's mandatory over 5 lots?
If anything 5 or more, I believe it's 5 or more has to be,
So we're basically forced into a cluster.
yeah, unless there's
We have,
Folk-
we have the discretion to.
Yeah.
allow
You know-
convention.
right, but it has to be,
You want
For
us to
good
at least
reason.
analyze a cluster? Is that what you're saying?
right, yeah, consider a
that-
cluster, and you might find that it works better for you.
Okay, we did have this preliminary meeting with Lee J and Jim Nagel on the though I am familiar with clusters in Arundel, that subject never came up. We were
Oh.
always talking about 5 or more lots, so why it was not indicated to us that cluster was, I guess maybe they didn't think it was mandated.
No, it's mandated. It's
Okay.
in section 4, 4.5 mandatory cluster subdivision.
Okay.
When we spoke about the project, it was very generalized in concept
We'll
and
bone
had-
up on that.
hadn't seen anything in
Yeah.
design at that point, so.
My experience has always been, you want at least a review of a cluster.
Yeah.
I'll go back to Bartlett Farms.
Well,
with his son.
Better catch it now.
Yeah, well, that's why we're here.
Yeah, yeah, right.
That's what the purpose. That's the
Yeah.
purpose.
Yeah.
Something to consider.
Okay. It's just this laid out so nicely with the existing wetlands, the way they are, you've got the corridor right down the middle. Of course, on a cluster, we would say the road costs, so that's a benefit as well. Okay.
To the chair.
Yes, Susan.
So, and I realize that it's a preliminary, so I don't need to be reminded in that situation, but in regard to the house that's way out in the end, there's no road driven on how that's going to be, the width of it's going to be, is it gonna be a split driveway? Is it going to be for safety from the
Can we
fire?
stop That one there?
Yeah.
That, my intent was to have a common driveway with that black spot that comes off the end. So cross the wetland once instead of going with 2 wetlands crossings. And once it got across the wetland, I didn't show the driveway, but it would hook back up to that and the other one. So they would share a common driveway where the wetlands crossing is to minimize the wetland impact.
So one lot would have an easement across
Correct.
the other lot shared, where the driveway would share.
Question. So I have another question. I know that's on the edge of town. And I forget with Proctor Road, does it turn to a dirt road at the
It
end of
does
that?
not. It does
paved
not. I
all
have
the way.
verified that this is paved all the way to the hammerhead where our Jasper Lane goes off. It's
Okay.
just before the gate at the very end, and it is all paved all the way out. As a matter of fact, they improved the part of it with new paving.
Yeah, good.
So I looked at that because I knew you were gonna have a question of that.
Yeah.
You gotta
yeah,
come
yeah.
through Biddeford to get into Arundel. And the Biddeford end of it is in relatively good shape.
Yeah.
They've got it culverted. I've been working on that stretch of Proctor Road for 30 years and
Mm.
I gotta say, they're kind of lifting that neighborhood up just a little bit. Leading into this property. Again, I'm really happy that this property is not indicative of the rest of the land going down Proctor Road. This comes up pretty nice and high. These knolls have 8, 10, 12 feet of elevation change on them. So there will be places to put houses with full foundations and make sure they're dry.
Good.
So I think, again, that'll be evident on a site walk, I think. For a site walk, you want to have the center line of the road staked?
Yes.
You're looking for front lot corners?
Yes.
Is that enough for the most part? The wetlands will be flagged. We can show you the
But it-
crossing.
where we would require a concept lot or a cluster lot. Should we have that review before we do a site walk to give these guys a sense of what they would need to post for the flag?
Yeah,
Would
that,
it,
I think that's a good idea.
would it not
actually.
though, would we not though seek the board's input as to whether the cluster was appropriate or this might still be appropriate? Once the site walk took place, as in a picture's worth 1,000 words kind of a
Well,
thing?
I think what we would do, I think we'd be looking either way for the same type of things, like
Mhm.
where the wetlands are and the contour, the grade.
As a consultant for the applicant, I might try to, if I could get that input sooner in the process for planning, it would be helpful to us. So that we're not turning his wheels in an expensive fashion unnecessarily.
That's one of my
Yeah.
concerns, because a cluster in this, because the wetlands are on both sides, usually you'll do a cluster with some sort of loop and save, you know. It would be difficult to do that without impacting more wetlands than this impacts. That's why I love this concept, because it really doesn't impacts what? 3,000 up front and maybe 3,000 up back. The front is almost permanent by rule.
And if that's how the layout bears out,
Okay,
then we've got, if I recall correctly, we've got the ability to not, not require the cluster, but we need to make that assessment.
okay. Now, I looked at the cluster in the beginning and I just found, I just couldn't wrap my hands around a way to do it that doesn't impact more wetlands than this. Because this is, it's funny, they're concentrated on both sides and going straight down the middle. It's like the perfect layout.
I think that might be the reason that we would want to do the site walk first,
Sure.
so that
That's
we
what-
can
that-
decide whether or not
that's-
the
okay,
cluster is better.
That was my suggestion, although I don't want to, tell the board what their business is. And I've been involved in projects that had more than one site walk as well. Given that it might change in its,
Depending on the changes that get
Correct.
made, yeah,
correct.
it could happen.
And ultimately, if we do the site walk and plan on having you guys flag the longer road, we're gonna see what we would see likely.
Right.
for a
That's
cluster.
exactly.
And I think that would
That's a
be,
good point. Jim.
that would be one of the big points. When we come out there, have the road flagged so that we know where it is.
Yep.
And do.
When would you, gentlemen and ladies, like to go on the site walk?
When it starts raining.
Wear your mufflers.
Well, it's going,
Trying to play into the delay. so we
I
got
have-
there when it
I
dropped.
have an inside
It might be
hand
dry
on
by
when it's
January.
going to stop raining,
Yeah.
but it's going to start that afternoon snowing.
Oh, yes.
That's what I was gonna say. We'll wait till it's dry in January.
Okay, so are we automatically on the next meeting?
We are not having the next meeting.
Correct. There's,
We had no submission, so we've canceled the meeting on the
on the 18th.
on the
It's gonna
18th.
be
We
next week
canceled the
because
18th,
of-
so
Oh,
the next
I
meeting is
think we're
going to
now
be,
like Next month.
Yeah, August second
The-
would be the first meeting.
Right, the first thing you'll do, they'll set the date for the site walk and they'll have the site walk.
Yep.
And then you'll want to come back after that.
Okay,
You'll have more direction from them based on clustering issues.
So we'll return after the site walk, but prior to making a preliminary plan submission.
Sure.
Yep.
so basically that's the only.
Well-
Cluster versus.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have a second sketch level meeting for us to
We will.
deliberate on the cluster issue. And then at that point, sort of open up to do your preliminary plan. Sure. Okay.
And I think there's, in that respect, I think there is an option if they look at it a little creatively, on the front. 1, 2, 3, 4, front 5 lots. It may mean realigning the road, so it's not just a straight shot. But you could take all of those units and move them over to the westerly side of what the proposed road is at this point and bring the road around. And get that clustering done. It may take a little bit of creativity to get that, but
Could be a short dangler cul-de-sac going off of
Yeah.
a loop or something. Yeah.
Okay.
And if you're thinking of condoing
I love
anything,
that, but again, it's just laid out. So nicely, with just, these simple lots and with the zone line going through, that doesn't make things easier either. Figuring that.
well, and just as an example, so the board understands, in the R3 zone, which is out front. The minimum lot sizes are 2 acres for a single family home, 3 acres for duplex. And in the R4, it's 3 acres for a single and 4.5 for duplex.
So that would be prorated, the amount of acreage in
Correct,
R4.
correct.
Right, yeah.
They've already done the calculation, know how many lots they can get. So if it means clustering them into smaller lots to preserve open space, they can't get any more lots, but they can certainly,
Right, they still get the same number of units.
correct.
Right,
Okay. So we can move some of those R4 units into the R3.
right.
zone.
Instead of 3 acre lots, looks like most of them are about 3 acres. Could be 1.5 acres and people would still feel like they have
Sure.
enough land, but
Yeah.
you could pack them in closer to the road, so you wouldn't have to. Plus, the advantage is to preserve open space for wildlife, for water
Yeah.
preservation. Also, the owners would not only own their 1 acre, but they would be part owner of those 20 acres that are set aside.
I get that.
You'd probably look at an HOA situation.
Yeah. And that would be a town road or a private?
It would be a private road.
Private,
in-
and unless you petition to go to town meeting and ask to have it accepted as a
Right.
road, but it would have, you'd be building it to town standards anyways.
Yeah.
that too, my experience is that you, as the developer, build the road to the town standard per the ordinance and the plan. The homeowners, after there's a sufficient number and the homes are built, may elect collectively to come back to the town and petition
Yeah.
the town.
Right.
to accept.
Yeah, they'd have to
It's
go
a-
to the
It's,
selectmen.
yeah, and it's an annual, at the annual meeting, you need to
Right.
vote and all, so it's a big process to get it done.
Right.
I don't have
You should-
many applicants or development individuals going through that process.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah,
homeowners.
they would have to go to the. Once the HOA is developed and everybody says, yeah, let's go to the town, and they'd go to the selectmen. The selectmen could turn you down.
So you would have to present to an HOA some type of agreement that there's a road for road maintenance. Also, and I'm not sure how that front end that's already there, how that would play into the road maintenance. Maybe they just get a
Right, there are
freebie.
some shared lots on that front section.
So
Yeah.
do we have the ability under cluster to do like 4 family units?
I don't know if we have that, do we? I don't think we allow that.
Again, I think if you did a fourplex or something to that, you can't get any additional units. You're still meeting the same
No, I-
density requirement.
Part of the limit to that is there's no public sewer. So you'd have to have.
Your septic system,
Cluster two families within 15 or 20 feet.
They,
It's just depends
yeah.
on-
Yeah. Yeah, as long as they have setback from each other.
and back to the road issue a little bit. We have had a situation here in town, which has been a long-term situation. We will certainly be requiring not only some sort of surety during construction, but third-party inspectors to make sure that the road is in fact being built to our
I've
standards.
built a few roads and I'm fine with that. Okay. I think
Okay.
we have-
Do you guys want to do the site walk on August 2nd? Before the next meeting?
What day of the week
That's
is that?
assuming that it's nice weather, of course.
Tuesday.
What? August 2nd?
Is it August
August
1st?
first is,
First.
yes.
Oh,
Actually,
you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah, August 1st.
yeah, that could work.
It's August 1st.
Tuesday.
Do it,
And that's a Tuesday.
5, yeah, we need at least.
And maybe
Yeah.
an hour, sort of cluster plan to hand out to you with that sidewalk. Just-
Yes, that would be great.
And that's
If you-
5 p.m. you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we schedule a site plan 5 o'clock on August 1st.
Motion has been made and seconded to have a site walk on August 1st on Jasper Lane. Any discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor? Any opposed? It is unanimous. Excellent. We look forward to seeing you then.
We thank you.
Thank you for your time.
We'll get the road, get that road staked out.
Yeah, you can do that, right? What's that? I said you can do that.
No, I said, I didn't, so you know where it is. Okay.
Thanks, Maureen.
Yeah.
Okay, next up is Fitzpatrick Development on Heavy Hammer Lane. This is a site plan conditional use review for a proposed development, including one 10,000 square foot warehouse, one 4,800 square foot contractor building with a residential dwelling unit and a 7-unit campground and an associated parking accessory area. BDF Holdings LLC is the owner and applicant, represented by Ben Fitzpatrick, and Christopher Taylor of Sebago Technics is the applicant's agent. The property is located on Heavy Hammer Lane, tax map 4 lots 23 and 23C in the AR district. Take it away, boss.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Chris Taylor.
Tap the mic on the front. There you go. Thank you.
We're in front of the board last fall.
Mhm.
This project at the sidewalk as well. The plan is fairly similar to what the sketch plan application was. It's proposing a warehouse building, another warehouse type building. Office space in there, residential unit, was previously proposed. Also proposed to make that campground, as a mentioned down. To keep that, that has moved from this application to the work, that is on lot 3 of the approved subdivision for the that was previously shown as kind of a storage yard area that piece has been removed. It's actually a rich sale agreement, for, developer to come in, for the development. But that piece has been removed from, the application. We have submitted, for a soda application, the development subdivision of the whole. For
Thank you.
To the chair, when we did the site walk review, was the road curved and back into the camping area? Was it more straight? I'm just trying to recall. I know that we went out and did it. Was it always this iteration of how the road would come into the property because of the other allotted storage facility yard? Has it always been like this?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's an easement, for the private way, the Hammer Lane, that makes that curve and the alignment hasn't had that curve, hasn't come to the site and takes that 90-degree back. That's where, there is an easement for, the private lane now, because it's subdivision approval of that.
Okay, thank you.
To the chair.
Yes, Susan.
So I was on that sidewalk as well, so I've got a couple of questions. One is there were quite a few abutters that joined us on the initial sidewalk, and they were concerned about people using the campground to use some of the trails and end up on their property by accident. So we discussed somehow either marking or blocking off the campground area from your abutters. That was the first thing. And then we had some discussion about how you were going to book your reservations and what kind of camper traffic, or is it trucker traffic that you're expecting? And you were going to put in showers and bathrooms and things like that for the area. So can you just sort of revisit that with us and refresh our memories?
Yeah, so there are bathrooms that are proposed, and they're in the larger building, kind of the middle corner of the building right here. Bathroom facilities, that's part of the conditional use application that requires that. Also as a part of the conditional use requirement or regulations, only RVs and basically campers are allowed, not in campgrounds, not other types of activities. I would say so. It's not anticipated to have 18-wheelers, tractor trailers, trucks, long haul trucks in the campground. And in terms of the vote that I believe it'll be done online, handled online. There's a spot on the site plan. Here where there'll be a signboard with information about the campground and campground rules and some assignments. But there's the voting will begin.
Okay, I remember that. Thank you.
Oh, the first question you had about
The abutters and
the trail.
people using the trails.
So it is as part of this application, we are showing some trails that are going to be routed through the large rear portion of the lot. In terms of keeping people on the property themselves, I think the proposing sign with where the property line is, making sure that people are staying on property and not.
Hey, I've been Patrick, the owner applicant. I've actually been building trails with folks that have been on the land trust in the Western County. I was talking to them a little bit. They've been running the land trust and the trails have been up for a long time. And typically what they see is people being pretty darn respectful of private land signs. So making sure that our trails are marked, the trees are marked well, so that it's part of the trail, but also anytime that there's another trail. So basically those people have an ATV trail across my property, and I'm just gonna have to put signs. I don't want to gate them out, let them continue to get their trail, just put signs now on a private trail. And also on my campground rules, that people will sign up online, they'll see the rules, but rules will also be listed right at the front. The state requires campground to have a place where people sign it and they the work behind, so. Right at that, they'll see the campground rules again, and on the trail, they'll to read stay on mark path only. So there'll be stay on mark path only signs as well as you're leaving.
So,
thank you.
so trails that you're proposing are all meant to be pedestrian trails.
Yeah, we're all the recreational trails, biking and walking. Right now.
So that, yeah, so I was assuming they may have been, based on what the comment was at the sidewalk, I assume they may have been motorized ATVs.
No,
Do you guys, do you have an idea, could you show on the overall site plan? You know, where the approximate ATV trail is that cut through there? Even if it's based off the aerial or?
Yeah.
What page? What page? The second page?
Yep.
I would say that there was probably property way back here.
Yep.
Very further away. But the only trail I really know is entering the property around here, and then kind of sneaks out right down here in the flat area. Way beyond that, just go back.
Okay, so off of the Hall property over towards the.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Small little section that I've seen over the, not a lot, actually, I think most of the people aren't out there.
That was their concern, I remember on the sidewalk, is that they would be hunting. And so they didn't want to shoot anybody, or whether they want someone to get, that was their concern when we were there. Is that they would be posted enough that when they are hunting, they're not worried about that because people are just crossing into there.
Well, I think one of the big things there is that you need to tell everybody if it's hunting season, you will wear blaze orange or get shot.
That's the way I would advise. Actually, we're gonna go.
So to the chair.
Yes, correct.
So other than the lot that's under contract, is everything essentially the same and in the same place? Or do you need another sidewalk? Because it looks like everything is still the same, but for that one piece of property, which was sort of in play when we were there last fall. So I'm just curious if you need us back or,
No, the layout is, there's been just minor tweaks of the entertainment and that sort of thing, but the layout is the same, building configuration is the same.
Yes, go ahead.
With that, the building that's gonna have the warehouse with an apartment, is that just to rent out for anybody, or is it, or is someone gonna be, will that person be maintenance or management?
No, that, my father actually is already signed the lease, and he's gonna, we set everything out and he's going in that space for his.
Okay, good. So he doesn't want anything going on in his backyard. Good.
Someone to see her grab it.
Good.
Yeah, we're gonna be, I'm an avid hiker and I really am gonna try to put the food in the campground to be back in, back out their own trash, and obviously I don't. But I'm gonna do my best in the back area, I'll have, very nice pictures of kind of the and like the name. For a few nights, so we're really gonna try to add as possible things.
Good.
It's with my next summer. Next summer is my goal. With this application that we're working on, I have a feeling that it's gonna push us into a winter construction, so I'm probably gonna be put on my relative winter. I'm hoping to do great around before the. Yeah, I'm taking something, one I have a really good idea at time. Next summer. For the winter,
Mr. Chair, I just have a general question for the larger warehouse building, the secondary one. I'm looking at your lighting plan and you have all lighting for the front, but you have nothing to the back for safety. Is there anything planned for the back at all or an exit of that building? Or is it just, is there any exits off the back of that building?
No, the doors and overhead doors and pedestrian doors, van doors are just on the gravel side. This side. Right there.
I have another question about all the parking spaces that you have. There's 22, I see. 22 total spaces. What would they be needed for?
The intent really isn't to, write them, it's just like a code compliance. I think that we're showing that there is the availability for the 22 parking spaces to meet the ordinance.
Are you planning at some point that that warehouse might have that many employees or something?
No, there's just
Or is it the square footage formula?
The code requires so many parking spaces per square footage.
Even for a warehouse?
Hmm.
Wow. That's another issue where I think there's too many. Yeah.
Actually, not to get off the subject at this point, but in our shop, we're talking about possibly looking at developing new parking standards that don't require as much impervious area, less parking for places. I know corporations, Walmarts of the world, expect to put in 3,000 parking spaces, regardless of what the town's ordinance says. Well, we may be looking at trying to somehow scale that back.
Yeah.
So that you're not looking at, 3/4 of the year having impervious just sitting there creating stormwater for no reason.
Right.
And even on the smaller projects like this, that's the case.
Good. Okay. I didn't know what the formula was. I just assumed the warehouses must be a
Well,
lot less, but
yeah, between the two buildings and the campground.
Mhm.
Excuse me, those are voice. All of the standards add up and require so many parking spaces.
okay. Good. Thanks.
And I apologize. This is sprinkled. Both buildings are sprinkled for safety?
Oh, really? Yes.
Yes. Okay. No, I'm talking about the, sorry, I was looking through it and I was just trying to find it quickly.
I think I could, suppose I can't speak to the smaller building right now. I know I am definitely sprinkling my part of adult, but you know, like the really.
I don't know about specifically, but generally under 10,000, you don't always have to. But it would be something that would come up generally during the building permit process. That's where that code kind of runs the course.
You may want to check with the fire chief first, because he wants everything sprinkled.
That's why I was asking you the question. If you had before the fire chief got to that point, you moved that far along.
I was sprinkling, but that I don't know. Way to go, building permit. But yeah, that was the part. I didn't talk to them about my fire or anything. Fire.
This evening, the process would be for you to find the application complete. Doesn't sound like you do on the sidewalk, but it would be like a public hearing.
Mhm.
And,
I have a couple of more questions. You're asking for a waiver of the sign ordinance regarding the schematic. And I'm not sure I understand the reason for it. You haven't finished it yet, but it's got to be finished by the time we get through the process, because you have to put it on the plan.
At least the location. You don't have to put the design.
Right,
or
they have to
the
put the location on there.
Location.
But this says, a schematic elevation of the proposed sign will be provided when it's finalized. Where are you gonna put the sign?
The sign location is marked on the site plan, just out, at the intersection of,
Is it down on 111?
yeah, down by 11 at Peter's driveway.
Oh, yeah. And sheet 4. So, yeah, I agree with the chair. It seems to me you don't really need to waive that because you do have location marked. You wouldn't need to get go to the CEO and get a permit for the
Right, yeah.
sign, which is required, we got outside of us. So,
Okay. Okay, and then the other one that I'm wondering about. You don't want picnic tables. Okay. And we're talking RVs, people are gonna, they're gonna be able to sit someplace.
Yeah, a lot of times, they come with their own camp chairs, and we are proposing a common picnic table area.
Oh, okay.
site. So it's just having one at each site. So there is picnic tables proposed with kind of down right in this area, picnic table area down here.
Did we require that?
I didn't know we even had something on that.
I think it should be used, there's a section about picnic table and trash. The picnic table is the request to reduce kind of the number of.
Under the performance standards.
Yeah, and that was the request I had to hold off on those, just being someone who's been in a lot of campgrounds, I see them going under maintained a lot, and not getting used to the modern day camper kind of has their own stuff oftentimes. So just providing one or two over in another area, just makes my life a lot easier on maintaining these tables. It's not even about getting them there, they take up extra space, they get bombed and broken and maintaining every year. So if we can get around it, but I was, I'm so afraid that I'm not gonna hang that on it.
At the hill you're dying on.
But I feel it's something that would be neat, maybe to have two over and one or two over. And that, we're trying to push the boundaries of the modern and industrial scale and look at campgrounds and, so I just how that can kind of be a whole narrative. Kind of right from the shade of the whole thing, and I feel like they were together.
Well, and the question becomes how do you gentlemen and ladies feel about waiving the requirement for picnic tables? I was looking through the application itself and I can't see where there's a waiver in there for that.
Yes.
I saw the waiver for the sign, but I couldn't see the waiver for the picnic tables.
But it may not apply to our decision for completeness. Right.
Oh, yeah, no,
But-
that's true.
But it could play into our overall approval of the conditional use.
And I apologize, did you say it was in the back in the conditional that you were gonna have a common area with picnic tables in it? Is it somewhere in the application itself?
Plan.
That's kind of interesting that picnic tables may be anachronistic.
Yeah.
That people come with their own awnings and chairs and tables. And that maybe we do need to revisit. Requiring them to be present.
Well, I think in this particular instance, that may be true, but I think if you're tenting someplace, you need a picnic table.
Right. Tenting is one thing, yeah,
Everything's so.
But it's
small.
campground, so,
yeah.
Yeah.
Not their phone now, it's pretty TVs and.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right, right. So
Okay.
I move that we find the application complete.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Who seconded that?
I'll
Tom?
second it.
Okay. Motion made by Susan Roth, seconded by Tom McGinn to determine the application complete. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It is unanimous. Now we need to set a,
Before we do that, I was gonna ask a question. Didn't really have anything to pertain to completeness or not, so I didn't
okay,
interrupt the motion, but can you guys give us a synopsis real quick on what the trip generation would be? I noticed you had a letter in here, just a quick run through of what, you know, how this will not impact traffic on 111.
Yeah, so, there's a further breakdown in the trip generation memo, section 6.
Yep.
The application. And basically during the PM peak hour was the, highest traffic in the site. It was estimated to have 8 trips during that PM peak hour. Very minimal traffic generation, for this site.
Yeah.
Compared to the volume that are on Route 111, it's pretty negligible.
are there going to be signs indicating that there is no left-hand turn coming out of there?
Hmm.
I'm sorry.
Well, there had been a discussion back originally about restricting left-hand turns coming out of the campground onto 111. That's gonna be a little bit rough.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
I don't either.
Okay, then I must have been dreaming.
It may have been a different project.
And
No,
that is-
no, it was this
That
project.
is in the area where they've widened it.
Yeah,
and it
because
has
it's 4 lanes across.
Well,
It's,
3 official, but.
I've driven through there. It's 4 lanes.
No, I know.
You're on a bicycle.
But I have also seen issues where people are turning left off of the middle lane and.
Yep.
Those create issues too, so.
We looked at a business that had high traffic flow and they talked about creating a left and right from that there. I think we were looking at the data, it's not pretty traffic flow.
Mhm.
It's quite a big gap.
Yeah, I'm just thinking in terms of the size of these vehicles pulling out. Because,
Well,
they're
you have
not
to
gonna
miss
be
'em.
coming out of there at 40 miles an
You know,
hour.
but anecdotally, somebody that pulls out on that stretch of road since they put the light in down at Hill Road and down at the shopping center, there are many more breaks in traffic than there were 5 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's, and again, that's just me as a, routine user of the new road intersection right down the
Mhm.
road, but it's a better situation than it was 10 years ago, at least.
I agree with that. And a lot of, I think, people, for the campground, wise anyway, are mostly gonna be impacted from like everything. But, I think that's definitely better.
Okay,
One more thing, I don't mean to continue the picnic table issue, but while I was looking at it, there is a requirement for a masonry or metal fireplace, so you might want to consider, I don't know if you want that or not, or do you want to have?
Yeah, I'm a blacksmith, so I'm kind of excited I'm gonna go down and talk to the fire chief. I assume he's gonna be okay, so I'm thinking of this little project on that, and I think he's gonna be probably okay. Large cast iron truck wheels, rims.
Yeah.
And then they can get it, I'm gonna try to make the best one very easy to walk over, like I see it a lot of public sites.
Good. That'll contain,
Thinking about
Yeah.
getting one.
so it would need approval by the fire chief, so yes,
Oh,
yeah, so whatever you come up with for design, just run it by him, that's all.
Yeah.
Wanna vote?
okay, so
No, we did, didn't we?
You haven't set the
we
date for
voted
the
on the
public hearing.
completeness, but we
discussion,
haven't
yeah.
voted on the public hearing.
Correct.
All right, well, good luck.
Public hearing?
Well, yeah, hang on.
Oh, yeah,
And is there any other discussion?
no,
The motion on the floor is to have a public hearing on August 2nd, August 1st, I'm sorry.
There is a motion for that?
I don't know.
I'll make it. I move that we have a public hearing on August first.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Motion was made by Susan Roth, seconded by Tom McGinn to hold a public hearing on August first. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Right.
It is unanimous. We will look forward to seeing you.
If public hearing goes well, is there possibly a kind of final?
Yes, unless your neighbors turn out en masse and come up with
Yeah.
pitches and with pitchforks and torches, then yeah, there's a pretty good chance.
No, I hope that.
Very thorough.
Good. Okay, good luck. Right.
Lee J, you're up. Town planners report.
I'm up. All right. Well, at the beginning of the meeting this evening, Rich made the announcement regarding cell phones. I talked with Rich and I plan on discussing this with all of the boards that I work with, but I had a very uncomfortable situation occur at another planning board in another town where one of the applicant's representatives did not announce that the attorney for the applicant was on the other end of a cell phone until an hour and a half into the meeting when the attorney felt as though there was a need to make a comment. And we were unaware completely that there was even anybody on the other end of a telephone or a cell phone listening to the meeting. Now, it's not illegal, but there should have been some courtesy given to let us know that someone, especially the attorney for the applicant, was on the other end of the cell phone. So I think just as a courtesy moving forward, it would be great if the board establishes a policy or something to the effect that, you know, the announcement that Rich made at the beginning of the meeting, so that if someone is on the other end of a cell phone, they at least should be announced by whoever's doing that. I think it's just a common courtesy these days to do that rather than just keeping your cell phone in your front pocket, assuming that no one else is on the other end of a conversation. So anyway, there's that. Yes.
So why would that be any different than the Zoom stuff that we say you can listen, but you can't participate?
That's correct. You cannot participate. This particular,
Right.
hey, Paul, this particular person interrupted the meeting to make a comment from their cell phone.
And the ground rule that Rich mentioned in the beginning was that they could not participate via cell phone, right? Similar to Zoom.
Correct.
You had to be at the meeting.
Correct. Correct. So I just bring that to your attention. I think that sort of thing probably may occur more and more these days. I'm not sure. We do have, and I won't discuss them per se, but we do have some other applications that will be coming forward. One of them certainly was mentioned tonight. That lot 3 of Heavy Hammer Lane, there is a separate application that will come forward soon. I have been working with the engineering firm on that project. So I wouldn't be surprised if they submitted for the August meeting as well as for their initial meeting. And excuse me, I have had some conversation regarding some expansions of other projects in town, which again will remain unnamed at this time, but we will possibly see something come forward in the near future on at least one of those. So it remains busy. As I think Rich may have mentioned, or you're going to mention, there is no meeting next week. And remember, that got kind of squashed time frame wise because you didn't have a meeting on 4th of July. Darn. So unfortunately, the timing has been such that applications haven't come through the door in order for us to be able to process them. With that, I'll turn it back to the chair, and you folks have a election of officers this evening that
Yes.
needs to occur.
Well, we do have elections of officers, so where should we start? We need a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary.
You willing to continue serving as chair?
Yeah.
Well, I'll nominate you if we need to.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion was made by Tom, seconded by Susan to nominate Rich for the chair. Does anybody else have any nominations to make? Evidently not. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It is unanimous.
I'm happy to step back.
This kind of like being in the army and volunteering when,
Really?
because everybody else took one step back.
Point man. You're the first one to get killed out there.
Okay. Vice Chair. I'm going to nominate Susan Roth.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll be happy to serve.
Would anybody else like to nominate for that position?
Susan did a great job filling in the meetings you want.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Hearing no other nominations, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. On to the secretary.
You were such a great
No, I
secretary.
was not.
Oh, I was gonna nominate Paul.
I'll second that.
Secretary.
Everybody's gotta be secretary, at least
We're
one.
gonna take.
Hey, I take the minutes for you.
Wait, we filled in for Tom. We added our own editorial comments to some of Tom's. No,
Who seconded that motion? Was it Tom?
Tom,
I think we all
I think we all did.
did. Everybody else
Okay.
did.
Motion was made and
Unless someone
seconded
else
for
wants
Paul,
it.
for Paul Green as secretary. Any other discussion?
Paul, is he willing to be secretary?
Yes, are you willing to be secretary?
You do a great job of it.
Okay.
Happy to help.
All those in favor?
aye.
Anyone opposed? It is unanimous. That takes care of everything.
I think that's about the synopsis that I got to be secretary. He's the new guy.
Is that
On the ropes. Small price to pay.
Okay, we are done. I will.
I move that we end the meeting.
Okay.
We adjourn.